So today I'm going to talk to you all about the commodity content trap. This is something I'm passionate about, and this works from personal creators, brands, consumer brands, B2B, you name it. This trap is something that a lot of people have fallen into, and we're going to get into how you can avoid it and or get out of it. But first, I want to talk to you about the doorman fallacy. Has anybody heard of this before? Let's rewind the clock a little bit. In the 1980s, consultants went to hotels, very much like this hotel. They told them, hey, here's how you're going to increase profit. We're going to get rid of the doorman, fire them, we're going to put in those automatic doors that open and close. We've all walked through those at malls and you name it, right? So hotels said, hell yeah, let's cut that. We'll immediately increase our profit. Labor goes down. We put in those automatic doors, one-time investment. Boom, right? We're all going to see the graph. We're all going to make money and go dancing. Well, what happened was the opposite. These hotels all put in electric doors and they all lost money. Why? Because the doormen at these hotels were not there to simply open and close the door. They were the first point of contact for guests. They were the trusty resource when guests left and said, hey, where should I go for dinner? They actually greeted the guests. They made them feel welcome. We've all been there. You get into a city you've never been to. You're like, am I at the right place? And I'm frantic. And I had somebody crazy sitting next to me on the plane. And that doorman goes, hey, nice to meet you. Can I take your bags? Would you like a drink? It put people at ease. It made them feel welcomed. It made them feel special. It made their vacations better. So they quickly unraveled this and put people back into position as doormen. And this is an idea that was brought by the behavioral economist Roy Sutherland, which is it's a seemingly reasonable cost-saving strategy, but it ultimately fails due to the disregard of the unmeasurable. Now, why do I tell you this story? What's the point? Your org sees the marketers as doormen, and there is somebody coming in, a new CFO, a new ops person who goes, let's roll heads, we'll increase profit. We actually don't need this marketing org. Our sales team will do it. Let's not go on Instagram. Let's not do TikTok. Let's save money. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen that new VP Digital come in and they go, we're rolling things back to 2007 performance tactics, and everybody's gone. So what I want to do today, and the purpose of my talk, is to equip you within your org or with your clients with the tools to show your value, right? If you don't do this, you're seen as the arts and crafts department by the rest of your org. And you will be the first head to roll come layoffs. I don't mean to be dramatic. That's just what it is. So I want to equip you so you can actually go and articulate your value, because what you do is valuable. We all know that, right? We all buy things because of marketing. It's always some dude who's like in head to toe Patagonia saying that branding doesn't work. So it's like, we got to make sure that we talk through to that person. No offense to Patagonia if you love it. So the first thing I want to talk about what it's not, and what brands get caught into. And this is part of the content commodity trap. Brands memeing with other brands, replying, and it's all talking to each other. This is diet content. It is absent any calories, okay? This is a very famous B2B brand that posted this. I blocked them out. And the problem with this is any brand can post it. When you see this, you actually don't think of the brands or these brands that are like weird reply guys to the meme. What you think of and what this promotes is the show White Lotus. You are doing advertising for White Lotus. When you take the Barbie meme, you are one, committing copyright infringement, two, advertising Barbie. So I want to pull us out of this meme marketing, reactive marketing that a lot of us default into because we chase metrics over letting our own message lead. So why should you care? Who am I? I'm going to keep this one shorter. I started an agency by accident. Basically, I bought season tickets to a sports team that was in a different country because they were on sale for $150. I documented the whole thing, trying to give away the tickets. It ended up getting picked up by ESPN, the owners of the team. They flew us down. We just made a whole story about it. But hey, here's our year as a Florida Panthers season ticket holder in the NHL. That story blew up, got on the front page of Reddit, ESPN, led to national news coverage, interviews. And my aunt, who's in PR, she's like, do you know how much that was worth to the Panthers? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, $250K. And I said, sick. I have like $220 in my account. But it clicked for me like, oh, brands will pay for this. Brands will pay for real storytelling. 13 years later, run a social first agency here in LA. And over the last 5 years, I've run the Mind Your Marketing podcast. So we've interviewed over 250 CMOs, VPs, kind of understanding what works for them, what doesn't. So this is officially my definition of the content commodity trap, which is when you end up making the same content as everyone else in search of engagement metrics over messaging that connects. The commodity content trap is troubling because it entices the marketer who's responsible for delivering metrics. But instead of using that content as a tool, it quickly becomes a drug, one that we can't seem to escape, and we can't escape the trap. What are the symptoms? This content looks like everybody else, has no emotional or strategic edge. It is optimized for impressions, not impact, right? This is attention without connection. AKA, I can go to Hollywood Boulevard, light my hair on fire, and run down the road. Everybody's gonna look. Nobody's gonna trust me. That is what we're doing when we get into this reactive cycle of doing TikTok dances. Not what we wanna do. So we have to get outside of this publishing to check a box. Publishing because, oh, my boss wants me to do this, and we're reactive. And this happens because there's pressure to perform, and we actually haven't set our KPIs properly with our leadership teams. So we don't even know what we're reporting on. So we're like, I got to get engagement. I don't know. Let's just get engagement. Let's do something. Oh, that worked for our competitor on the road. We should do our own version. So that pressure to do that ends up with, we follow trends. We actually don't set our own messaging, which is so stressful as a marketing department because you're in this constant state of reactivity. Most trends don't even fit your brand. I'm not anti-trend. I'm just going to show you when you should do it. Like, who all this week saw the dude dunking his face in water with the banana, right? Yeah, it was weird. But Duolingo had a great post for it where they had their big jacked up Duolingo guy. Okay, they made that meme their own. That's different than like, putting some quip over a picture of Barbie. So if you can find ways to make it your own, I'm cool with it. And we also want to make sure that when you do react to anything, it aligns with your brand. Now, part of this and part of commodity content, it leads to this thing called the vampire effect, okay? And I could have put a photo of Blade here or the Muppet Dracula. I like that one. And but it actually would have led into the vampire effect. The vampire effect is when a certain aspect of your content actually overshadows your brand and it sucks mind share and brand recall. So this is stuff, all has the same characteristics. Something is overshadowing in the content. Something is it diverts your attention and it hurts recall issues. Okay. Examples you've seen, overusing celebrities in ads. There have been studies that show that people remember the celebrity, not the ad. They actually will attribute that celebrity to a competitor sometimes. So we want to make sure, and one of the speakers this morning talked about the Kardashians' failing company. Yeah, they overshadow the brand. They're there. I went down to a food convention. There's this brand, and there's a celebrity, Vanessa Hudgens. She owns a brand. Everybody is in line to meet her, not to try the product. The product samples are all lying out there and everyone just wants a selfie with her. She's overshadowing the brand. We also look at this. Memes. The minute you introduce a meme, you are causing so much confusion for the customer on what they have to remember, right? Did everybody see, there was Away luggage. They did a spoof on Jeremy Allen White where they put underwear on it on a thing and they did this Calvin Klein ripoff. The consumer sees this, they go, is this about a luggage company? Is it about that actor? Or is it about Calvin Klein? Now we're competing with three different things in the consumer's mind for their recall. That's troubling to me. I would rather make sure that when we actually do things, it resonates with people. Some other things you can see with the vampire effect, anything that's too pop culture, people will actually remember the trend over the brands that participated in it. And like exorbitant special effects, sometimes people get distracted by that and actually don't hear what you're saying. So why it matters comes down to this. We need to be able to prove the ROI of what we're doing within the org. And when we go, look, we did this big campaign and we did all these memes and it was awesome. And look at our impressions. And your CEO goes, great, but sales are down 2 quarters in a row. Oh, our MQLs are down. So how did that help our pipeline? And you're like, I don't know, but I learned this, right? Like we have to be able to tie this back in. And I want to make sure that we're fostering connection, not missing it. So entertaining doesn't always equal memorable. And then we also want to make sure that we're not confusing people. They remember the meme, not your name. We need to look at how we can cut through. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you how. This is data to back it up. I'm not going to go through a ton of this. I just wanted to put it up so you have it if you want to take a photo. There's a ton of studies, basically, that show that it causes a lot of confusion for the customer when they see mixed messaging with different things. They see humor. Humor might get a lot of impressions, but emotional connection is actually what leads you closer to purchasing. And that, celebrities a lot of times can actually overshadow your brand, as we mentioned. I think out of all these, right, what it costs you, waste of time, audience growth, I think the bottom two are the ones that really scare me the most when you're not if you're not differentiating and actually having something you stand for. It's like being the water between the rice. It's flavorless. Like we gotta have a spine, say something, stand up for something. Right now, I could show you a Nike advertisement with no copywriting on it and you'd be like, Nike, that's Nike. I know that's Nike. They're saying if you can't win, win, and there's Caitlin Clark or there's somebody doing something, and you'd be like, I'm inspired. I know that's Nike. They don't have to explain themselves. When you don't, you become the forgettable messenger. So if you're just copying memes, posting things, People remember that meme. They don't remember your brand. So how do you win? How do you get out of this vampire effect? You can see I got my vampire tools. I want us to lead with our brand and our message and follow with metrics and memes. They are tools for us, but a lot of us have started to worship the metrics over actually understanding our own messaging. What does our brand stand for? When we look at it, although this post or this series of posts may not perform, it actually might be more impactful. There's a guy named Sean Puri, and he says, the goal is not to be well known, but to be known well. And I actually like that when I think about creating messages. I want my potential customers, I want my clients' potential customers, I want them to know our brand very well, intimately, who we stand for, who we are not for, who we can help, who we can't, because it's going to help them make an informed decision. So questions to ask yourself here. Would a competitor post this? Does it spark emotion, insight? Would you share this yourself? And does it feel like only you could post it? So now we're going to get into, I said all these things you shouldn't do. Now I'm going to tell you how to actually create content. And I think about it a couple ways. And I've heard this a couple times today. And it's been like crawl, walk, run, crawl, walk, run. And that's a fun thing to say, but it's bullshit. You need to run, because average CMO tenure is 28 months. If you crawl and you walk and then you get up to run, oh, your CMO's left and there's a new CMO in, and now you got to go back to crawling and you don't know what worked. No, we need to run. We need to test. We need to get things out, because our time to delivery when we have an idea or we want to get a social campaign up, that's the thing we want to condense and shrink. So what that means, I would look at creating pillars. Create 4 or 5 pillars. These are themes you're going to come back to. Then I would look at 10 different ways you talk about those pillars. So these pillars could be, I'll give you an example of something we worked with. It was high quality food. It was make people feel good was one of their pillars. They went down, they had other ones, innovation in food. Great. Then we said across the top, how do we talk about this? Is it through past customer stories? Is it through product features? Is it motivational? Is it inspiring? Is it entertainment? Okay. We're going to do one on feel-good entertainment. What can we do? Let's hire somebody to give compliments to people inside the restaurant and film it. We're going to get people to feel good when they leave the restaurant. This is now a piece of content that syncs up with the ethos of that brand, and it's in line with our calendar. It also, as we build out this calendar with these pillars and ways we want to talk about it, we're actually able to see, did we cover enough of our themes and ways that we talk? So here's one of the problems I see a lot with social media, particularly when we go in to pitch a brand, and it's, I'll get in there and this brand hasn't maybe done too much social, or it's an owner operator and they're going for the first time and they think they're Freddie Mercury when they go to post, and that like everyone in the world is going to see their content, and they're so worried. And they're like, yeah, this is like, we need to make it so perfect and do all these things. I'm like, you literally, 6 people are going to see this. Like, let's just post. Let's see what's working. Because right now, unless you pay, you're not getting guaranteed distribution. Also, going viral is very overrated, because that spike's cool. It's more about what you can do repetitively and what can you actually put out over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months with regards to your baseline impressions. And we think like this. So we think that we're posting and it's this parasocial relationship with you talking to the crowd. You're not actually talking to a crowd. You are talking to Emily, who's in bed with her phone this far from her face. Okay? That is who we are talking to and who we need to optimize for. Now, this person, who is me more nights than I'd like to talk about, is there scrolling social, and I'm going to do one of 2 things when I see social media content. And I bet you guys are the same. One, I'm going to send it to friends. I'm going to send it, or if it's useful or it's applicable, I'm going to send it to a person I think it's applicable. My wife just had kids, so anytime I see some kid-related stuff, mom talk, some of these moms are just a wealth of knowledge, I send it to my wife, like, hey, check this out, right? Okay, useful stuff that I'm sharing with my friends. That helps actually give me perceived social credit. It's when we share funny stuff with our friends, we then think, oh, hey, we can be seen as the funny person or the first who's tapped in. That's one activity that everybody does. The second thing we do, save content for deep dives. Something that you find that you're like, oh, dang, this is really useful. I got to come back to this. So I would look at optimizing your content for 2 things, shares, saves, and sends, basically. And you'll see this on Instagram now. Anytime you see a piece of content that's in your For You page that's viral, it's going to have way more messages than any other metric, because people are actually sending it to their friends. This is what we call gray social media, stuff that you kind of can't see, where people are actually messaging about your brand, or they're asking about that content, or hey, is that restaurant actually good, or is this just like some weird TikTok campaign? All of that stuff is happening behind closed doors. Now what we're going to go through is, we've looked at what not to do. We've looked at what your audience, where they actually are. We're going to talk about the anatomy of strong social and more so content. Before we get into this, I want us to think about our audience contract. Has anybody ever heard the saying like, people don't have short attention spans, they sit down to watch Netflix all the time? And yeah, of course, when I sit down to watch Netflix, I know I'm going to sit down for an hour long show. That's my audience contract. I have a good, clean contract with Netflix. It's the same thing when I open a novel. I expect long prose where things are being very descriptive and I can get into it. It's very different than someone who's scrolling through social media, where if we think about it like this, either the user has their thumb on the phone or off the phone. If their thumb is on the phone, that means they're going 100 miles an hour. That means they're swiping. So we need to stop, get their attention, deliver some value. If their thumb is off the phone, they're going 60 miles an hour. This is much more, I don't know about you all, but I like to watch YouTube while I cook. I'll like set up my little video, okay, sports highlights, and all my teams lose, so it's a really depressing morning. And I hit that and watch my team get scored on a bunch. That's how I think about social, is thumb on, thumb off. Because if I can understand where my audience member is at, that's gonna help me before I ever set forth with creating, how much time I have to create, what can I say, what can I set up, etc. Cool. So this is what we wanna look at. We wanna look for, on this graph, how unique is our angle, how unique is our content idea, okay? If we have a very common angle and a common idea, like 5 pieces of software every marketer should look at. Like, that is so uninspiring and boring. And there's so much of that content on the web. And I get it, in 2012, 2013, like you could do this content arbitrage and rank for that. I don't know about you all, but I find that to be super boring. Instead, what I want to look at is, what's a unique angle? And can I find an uncommon idea? And if I can't, if it's a common idea, right, but I can take a unique angle or I can do something that's like 10 times better than what's in the market, okay, cool, my content can rise above. Or I can find something that is truly in that thought leadership bracket up there where you're able to match that. And that's what we want to look for in social, thinking about how you speak and then what POV you say this from. So a little tip to go angles and uncommon idea. Here's what I would look at with creating a unique angle is I would start with your POV. How are you speaking and who are you speaking to and where are you coming from? A lot of people place themselves as the hero. Who's familiar with Donald Miller's story brand? So a couple people basically saying, look, the customer, your audience member, they are the hero of the story, not you. So instead, what you want to do is position yourself as the guide. I think that's okay. I think you want to be the guide, but then you also want to be, or you can be what we'll call the explorer, right? So I'll break down the difference between all of these. Here is I'm the hero as a brand. Let's say I have a protein bar company and I post on social, hey, we're so proud. We're in Whole Foods. This is a big milestone for us. Come get us in aisle 43. Like, it means the world to us after we've put our blood, sweat, and tears into this company because, we're the shit. Okay, no, that's just you being braggadocious. What if you say this though? 2, hey, do you need help hitting your daily macros? Look, we know getting protein's tough. If you're in Whole Foods, aisle 43, give our snack a shot. We think it might actually help you hit your goals. Okay, now we're the guide. Now, number 3, which is the explorer, which is hiring someone to go, I tried all 37 protein bars at Whole Foods to find the one with the best macros and that tasted the best. What video are you going to watch? What piece of content are you going to watch? I'm going to watch that last one because it has all the effort that went into it. So that's where I think about how can we be either that guide or the explorer. Those 2 angles and places to come from with your messaging will help a lot. Cool. So now we're getting into this anatomy of the posts. And I see successful storytelling really in 4 pieces, which is our hook, context, curiosity, and delivery. So the hook, and this is something people have talked about up here today a bunch, right? First 3 seconds, how do you get people's thumbs to stop? How do you get them to stop and to scroll? How can you hook them? What does that look like, right? A lot of people have mastered this, and there are a lot of articles online and the top 50 hooks, and you can go look these up and you'll try them out and you'll be like, but why aren't they working for me? And there's something simple that's missing, context. I'm sure you all have seen videos where someone like throws water on somebody and then it quick cuts and it's like, now it's a guy selling a Dodge Durango, That's misaligned context and it's trick. The hook is a trick. So it's actually a negative signal when you're tricking people into watching and then they're like, what the hell? What we want to do is we want to hook and give context. This context should be polarizing. What I mean by that, it should attract the type of people you want and it should push the type of people you don't want away. Because the algorithm is going to take future pieces of content and serve them to people who watch your whole thing and make it through more of your video. So if you use an engagement bait hook that's like whatever, we talked earlier about, one of the speakers talked about like a ram running into a person. That's an engagement based hook. that like 99% of the population is going to watch, that's a negative signal because you actually don't want your content going out to the masses afterwards where then they swipe through and don't watch the rest of it. We want to get in front of potential customers. How you do that is by setting the context, making sure that it actually matches your hook. Then the next thing we want to do is build curiosity loops. You'll see this with Mr. Beast, right? Who's ever watched a Mr. Beast video? Everyone, right? He has a very basic formula. He's like, I trapped myself underground for like 27 days. Okay, now we just watch what happens at the end of 27 days. If he came out in the first 30 seconds and was like, I lost 22 pounds and my vision's gone blurry because I was underground for 27 days, we'd all be like, oh, okay, this isn't entertaining. But he hooks you, micro hooks over and over again, and he builds curiosity. Hey, what's gonna happen? Why should I watch? What's gonna happen? Why should I watch? Why should I stay engaged? So be thinking about this. How can you build what's called a curiosity loop into your content? You can use ChatGPT to give you ideas or say, hey, am I actually building curiosity in this? And ChatGPT will help you be like, you should stretch that out. You should delay gratification here, etc. And then last is delivery, right? Is what you're saying worth it? Do you deliver on the goods that you're talking about? So let's do an example. I'm going to do an example that hooks you in, hopefully builds some curiosity or gives you context and builds some curiosity and then delivers. All right, let's try it. This pizza company saw their sales jump by 10% when they admitted their pizza sucked. Don't believe me? Let's rewind the clock to 2011. Domino's Pizza hired a new CEO. Now I've given you the hook, some context what we're going to talk about. Okay, how did Domino's turn themselves around? What did they do? Hired a new CEO. And when he came in, they started a campaign that says, our pizza sucks. We're going back to the drawing board. Little did everybody know that Domino's would then become the fastest growing pizza chain in the country, simply by admitting their pizza sucked and being willing to go back to the drawing board. You can splice in some graphics, you can do some things. I have tried to give you I've tried to stop your scroll to be like, what do you mean admitting your pizza sucked led to more sales? Oh, I'm not tricking you. I am talking about a pizza company. And if I can delay or give you something later on in the post, amazing. Do this with your content. Think about, particularly in video, how can you script? You could take these 4 things. You could say, I want hook, context, curiosity, delivery. You can put it in your AI tool, talk into it and say, I have this idea. It will give you the framework. It will help build that for you for your scripting. And that's so huge because right now, and as we move into the future of content, packaging is going to be everything. And packaging is really your idea, the thumbnail, caption, in particular when it comes to social YouTube video. And you could have the greatest piece, most information dense video in the world, but if it's not getting people to stop, like you don't even have the opportunity to convert them or win them over or brand yourself. So we want to be trying to think about how we can get all 4 of those pieces into our marketing mix. Okay, we talked a little bit about this before, but social and marketing in particular is seen as the arts and crafts department until it's not. So what I mean by that, you have to create a story to go to your executives that gets them to believe that this is worth it. We have to show them the unmeasurable, okay? Who here now understands the value of a doorman at hotels, right? I didn't give you a single metric really outside of like sales went up, but we all looked at it and said, yeah, that's right, that would happen. If you lose a door, the doorman's gonna make sure that there's no criminal activity going on outside the hotel. Right, of course, okay. We need to find this narrative and the ways that we tell the story to our executives. How do we show them the value of marketing and do so? Because we'll be seen as the arts and crafts department. Sales will see us as the arts and crafts department. Our CFO definitely will because they watch like the Excel spreadsheets championships for entertainment. And we got to make sure that we're able to show that value. So how do we do it? And how do we get executive buy-in? I mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate it. CMO tenure is like 28 months on average. And that means like, we got to go. Let's feel it out and see how, no, we got to go. They want results. They want time to delivery. They want their campaigns going because their heads roll so quickly. And anyone who's been in an org and had a new CMO come in, what do? They come in, they're like, what vendors are getting fired? Let's redo the website. And they go on this very predictable playbook. So we want to make sure that we're able to communicate our ROI, give them a plan and someone that they can latch onto in the org to be like, okay, cool. My VP digital or my digital team's got this. Actually, they're going to run my initiatives and they're going to get them going. So we have data to present. So the CMO is empowered with the rest of the executives to say, no, marketing, we're delivering. We're getting web traffic. We're getting quality leads. Sales needs to pick it up instead of the other way around where sales is complaining about how many MQLs there are. And that's monthly qualified leads. Sorry for jargon. Okay. I'll take a photo of this too. I want us to reframe our social ROI. So leadership will side-eye your social media. They think it's a brand awareness pool party. If you come to them and we don't have sales for the organization or real pipeline moving, they're going to be like, yeah, that's great, but what does this mean? And it could be anything. It's the same thing if we do these TikTok trends and you have a CEO who's stressed about hitting their quarterly numbers. I'm telling you, the last thing they want to see when they open up their social media is the marketing team dancing around the office when they're stressed that they're not going to hit their sales numbers. Okay? So just keeping it real, like part of being a social media professional and growing and getting a seat at the table is not understanding just social media. It is understanding business and business metrics and what is actually important to your executive. So meet with your executive. You need to go talk to that executive, show them that social is this opportunity. It is the front door to revenue. It is the first touch point. It is that door at the hotel that's opened up, and it's opened up by the social media manager, by the content, that first impression. What we can show now, and this is some stuff that you can actually take to your executive team. 1, social is the #1 source for product research. 2, among Gen Z and millennials, now over 50% of both groups prefer social search to Google. Okay, so there's actual real data as to why you should be creating like how-to content. Yeah, I get that how-to content on social is not going to get a jillion views, but if you can take a long tail approach, basically take the 50 questions that your ideal customer would have, make videos about those in social, the people who search for that in social media are going to have very high intent, and you can make content that answers those questions. You are doing this to impress your potential customer, not the marketer that you went to college with. We need to break free from trying to impress other marketers on LinkedIn because it's just some weird social, like self-backpatting ceremony. Doesn't matter. Block it out. Who's your customer? What questions do they have? How can we answer them? We see 60% of people, 59, they consumers, they buy directly on social. Here's a actual stat you can take note as well. On average, customer service requests save businesses $8 per interaction when you save a customer through chat on social versus a phone tree. That's real money. Hey, when people contact our social, we're saving $8 per interaction. I want you to make a graph and say, we had 500 people contact us this quarter. Here's the exact amount of money we saved. That's the type of stuff that your executives want to see. Next, I want us to own a part of the pipeline. You can go and make that emails. You can make that web traffic, whatever it may be. I want you to own part of it. And this is how we're going to do it. We start with fiscal framing. Speak in dollars. If you do something, you're marketing, you're in web design, I want you to design 2 landing pages. I want you to go take your historical sales for the last year and say, great, we know that, sales divided by our web traffic, here's how much one web visitor is worth to us based on our historical data. Cool. If I make a landing page that gets twice as many visitors, here's how much that is dollar amount worth to this business versus landing page A. This is how you frame it and how you get buy-in. When we actually get the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals down, that gives us the freedom to do the experimental fun stuff we want to do. So think about this in dollars. Think about how you can track what we're doing. Simple thing you can look at is MER, marketing efficiency ratio. Basically, how much did you spend versus how much you sold versus, your typical sales cycle. So some of you are selling software that's going to take a year, some 6 months. Some of us are selling t-shirts where the sales cycle is like 4 days. So we want to look at what's our sales cycle and how our marketing actually affects that. We can look at share of voice, brand sentiment. There's all these tools, and these are all great signals and things that you can use to bolster your reports when you go into your one-on-ones, when you go in to sit with your manager, sit with your CMO, sit with your CEO. Start talking like a business person. Learn it. I know it's this weird thing because we all went to school to be marketers, be creatives, etc. And then we sit there and then we get sent an Excel sheet and we're like, okay, this is fun. Learn it. Or have ChatGPT learn it for you. Okay. The next thing I want to say, and I'm actually going to hop to the last one here, which is leadership buy-in. Who here is or has in the past had to convince an executive on the importance of marketing, in particular social? Anybody? Yeah. So what I'm going to tell you is in those instances, get a new job. Flat out. You ain't going to sell somebody on the importance of social media in 2025 if they're like, I don't know. Yeah, all right, I'm getting a new job, because it's already hard enough to convince customers to get your product if you're not a huge legacy brand, right? If you're a challenger brand, it's already hard enough. We can't be spending time trying to convince our CEO that marketing is important. What I want to be doing is convincing our CEO that marketing is working and that we should take some chances. So Once we get that buy-in, we have our quarterly check-in. We've defined what our leading metrics are, right? Our leading metrics. What's our traffic? What's our engagement? What's our conversions? I also would put micro conversions into this. Micro conversions are things like getting an email, getting somebody to DM, right? We want them to give up a little bit of information, particularly if you're in like B2B, it's moving them closer to a sale. They sign up for a discount, whatever it may be. Then we look at our lagging metrics. Okay, what are your closed deals? What's lifetime value? What's retention? How does that play out against what you've done, over the last 3 to 6 months? And at the bottom here, don't wait for Q4 to justify Q1. I want us to sit with our executive team. Here's the plan. Here's the budget I need. Here are the success metrics. Explain to them the algorithms change, but here is what we're going to do. Because what happens is we make a plan. We kind of loosely pitch it to our executives. Then 3 months later, they walk in the room and go, do we have a blue sky strategy? And you're like, no. Do we have an extra person to manage that? Like I can just add on platforms. So if you could clearly define that beforehand, hey, these are the platforms that we're going to really focus on. I would go towards the American-owned ones just because they're not going to get banned. And then I would post other things on TikTok. I would create for YouTube Shorts and Instagram because they are lobbying heavily to get rid of TikTok. And just knowing how politics works and lobbying works, I would just be like, post on TikTok while we got it, use it, but do not be surprised when it goes away. So think about this, because when execs see revenue, social earns its seat at the table. Now, what I'm going to do is this. You can book 30 minutes with me. I will walk through your brand, give you any strategy, any tidbits you need. If you do want to get the social system, go to jordan.bz, and that's my website, and just hit like social system. But it's a social system, and I have a video showing you how to use it, how to break it down, how to actually create content that resonates with your brand.